the music down a little bit. Okay, we're picking up where we last dropped off here. Let's move to the next page. Multiple parameters. Just a hint, not a hint, but a suggestion. Um, Monactic, diactic, and triactic. Those are 1, 2, and 3 parameters. I would never try to write a function that has more than 3 parameters, and 3 parameters is pushing it. If it's 3 parameters, it could probably be split up to 2 functions. One that takes an input and one that takes 2 inputs. So try to keep that in mind as we're looking at multiple parameters. So it looks like, let's just skip down here. Reset this. Okay, the function multiply 2, add 3 takes a number, multiplies it by 2, and then adds 3. We want to make this more flexible. First, change the name of the function to multiply x. Multiply x, add y. Cool. So we did that. Now add x and y as parameters to the functions after number. So says after. This looks terrible. 3. Whatever. So I'm assuming we replace 2 and 3. Yeah, 2 with x, and yeah. I figured as much. Cool. Inside the function, replace 2 in the print statement with x, which is what we did, and 3 with y, which is what we did. Okay, call the function with these values. Number 5, x is 2, y is 3. So let's call this function. So, we're gonna say mult x, add y, and we're gonna put in parens 5, comma 2, comma y. I'm gonna see if that works. I really don't know if that's gonna work, if that's gonna throw us an error. And it says nope. It says y is not defined, probably because that's supposed to be numbered, which is 3. Click run. It gives us 13. Let's check our math here. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 3 is 13, so our function works. Call the function with these values. I can just replace these values. 1, 3, 1. So first parameter 1. Now I wonder if like you can do this, right? Can we do this? Because this would make life easier, like for other people to read our code. So let's run this, and it looks like we cannot do that, which sucks. So we can't. So interesting, if you ever develop in Swift, when you make a function, you can actually do that in Swift. You can put the name of the parameter. In fact, they tell you to put the name of the parameter up in the method calls. Let's rerun this. We get 5, 1, 3, 1. Didn't even follow the directions. 1, 3, 1. Run. Awesome. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Move on to the next one. Keyword
Hey,
argument.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what do you have? What if you have number times number? It'd be the same value.
Number. So here, if we go back, let's go back to 6. Go back to 6. So if you had number times number, and what is it equal to? Well, let's not call this. Let's put that in a comment. Let's run this. It says call create spreadsheet with a title of downloads. So we're gonna call our function down here, create spreadsheet, and then we're gonna use title is equal to downloads. Spelled correctly. We're gonna run that. So cool, that passes. Now that is equal to I believe that. So let's rerun this. Yeah. So because in the second call of the function, this is positional. It says, okay, the first position when I write my function is title. So therefore the first thing I input is called title. This function specifies that title will equal downloads. So it doesn't matter what position that this parameter is. If I have another parameter in here called, I don't know, called 1 equals happy, right? And then inside of here we can print, I don't know, happy. And this takes a parameter called 1. And I run this. Title is equal to, I gotta put a comma. Gotta put a comma when I call the function. Come on. Cancel. Run. Creating a spreadsheet called downloads. The name happy is not defined in the function. Print happy. Oh, because duh.
It's not a string.
No, I gotta print
Okay.
1. one. I want one to be happy. I totally botched that. Let's run that. So yeah, it still prints happy out. So it says create spreadsheet is missing one required positional argument 1. So 1 is equal to happy though here. Oh, this one. This one's causing the error. That's why. See, bam. So even though happy was defined first, or in the call, its position is number 2 in the actual declaration of the function. But by specifying the parameter name inside of the call, it says don't look at the position, just find me the parameter named 1 and assign happy, the string happy to it. I don't care about the position. Now, if we didn't do this assignment right here, and we did this, okay, it would assign happy to title and downloads to 1, which is not what we want. So when we run it, creating a spreadsheet called happy, and then it prints out downloads, that's not what we want at all. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. Let's reset this back to where it was at. In here, I believe we had title is equal to downloads. So it says add a parameter row count to the function defined. So right here, we're going to add a function called row count. Yeah. Okay. Set the default value to be 1000. Okay, so row count is equal to 1000. Cool. Let's run that, see what happens. It says you need row count. So go ahead.
No, I think I'm I was gonna say add a semicolon, but that's JavaScript.
Yep.
Never mind.
So let's run this. Okay, so we added a default value to row count. So we just declared row count in the call. Remember, calling the function. Okay. Change the print statement in the function to creating a spreadsheet called title with row counts, rows, where title and rows are replaced with the respective values. So creating a spreadsheet called title, okay, plus, obviously we're doing concatenation here, with, okay, plus row count plus rows, right? Remember, concatenate, yeah. Ooh, that's right, because row count is an integer. It's always going to come in as an integer. We have to make sure this is a string. And we talked about this in one of our previous videos, that this will temporarily convert any integer run it, and we get what we expect. Any questions so far, Kevin?
Nope.
Okay.
Seems to be petrol along just fine.
Awesome. So, let's see, return. So far, we've only seen functions that print out some results to the console. Functions can also return a value to the user that can be modified for later use. Okay, here's an example. Okay, so it's taking an input and it's just dividing the input by 4. So let's see what they want us to do. The function calculate age, which is written here in the script, Python, creates a variable called age that is different between the current year and the birth year. Add a line to return age. Oh, bam. Run it. Okay, outside of the function, call. So we're going to call the function calculate age with the values of current year. Remember, I'm going to define these as non-positional parameters. 2018, comma, and birth year is 1993. So birth year and then it says save the value into a variable called my age. So this is something that's actually pretty important here. When this value gets returned, if it's not saved into a variable, it will output to the console and then just it won't be available again. So when I return age, right? So if I just run this function, yeah, I know. I don't care though. I don't want to define my age. I just want it to print to the console. Calculate age, current year equals 2018, birth year equals 1993. Run it. Should give me something back. Maybe print? No, not print. Maybe it's forcing me to do this, but when you save it into a variable, you can print out my age. It'll always be saved into my age. Let's run this. So 25. So when you call a function, you can store it into a variable, and that value, whatever comes out of that function, will now always be available inside of that variable, as you can see as I printed out the variable. Okay, so let's read the next statement. Call calculate age with the value of 2018, and 1953 is the birth year. So here, 1953, and again, these are non-positional because I'm defining birth year equals the parameter down in the function call. Print the string. I am X years old and my dad is Y years old to the console with my age where X is and dad's age where Y is. What? So it says, I get you. Okay. It's 1953. So I think what it wants us to do here is put in the previous year, which was 1993, and create a new dad's age is equal to calculate age current year equals 2018, comma, I said 3001. So to show you that you can do this positionally, we can just do 2018. And we can do 1953, which is my dad's age, according to Codecademy. And then we can print a statement that says, I am plus my age plus space years old. And my dad is plus dad's age plus years old. Okay, so I'm gonna put a comment here that says this is a non-positional function call, and let's hit enter here, and then I'm going to put this is a positional function call, and it's pretty much, you can do it either way. I would do it this way because this guarantees that the parameters match what your input is, and it's really good for starting out. Also, like if you're doing code for other people, reading this is a lot easier than reading this, right? Because then if I read this, I have to go back and find this function and go, okay, what are the inputs? Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so we have an error. It says, remember, we can't convert. So because we can't convert, we have to use the string method, which is str, parenthesis. We have to wrap our numbers in the method str, parenthesis. Okay, let's rerun it. I'm 25 years old, and my dad is 65 years old. And if we were sticklers, which we should be, we should put a period there, so it actually is a full sentence. All right.
Right. Okay.
Go ahead.
So that error was saying it couldn't convert the variable into a string.
Right. It's saying that when this was not a string, it was trying to add the number to a string, which it can't do. So it can add 1 plus 1, but it can't add 1 plus apple.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. So we have to convert it into a string first, which is what the str does. It converts my age into a string at the time that I call my age. So at the time that I use my age, if it's wrapped in the str method, string method, it converts it automatically to a string and then adds it to the sentence I am. My age is a string plus years old, and my dad is plus dad's age as a string. So it converts 65. It converts 25 from the number 25 to the string 25. And if you guys don't know what I mean by that, that's covered in an older video. But this is a string 25. This is a number 25. They're different. This is a string 65. This is the number 65. Strings can be added to strings, and numbers can be added to numbers, but numbers cannot be added to strings, so therefore we must convert the number into a string. If you have any questions on that, just reach out to me and we can go into it further. Alright. Any other questions on that, Kevin, before I continue?
Nope.
Yeah, multiple return values. So sometimes we may want to return more than one value from a function. We can return several values by separating them with commas. Interesting. So the return statement has commas, so we can return multiple values. So let's just go down here and see what they want us to do. So they want us to write a function called getBoundaries, and my function has how many pieces to it, Kevin?
Wait, which function?
Any function in Python has how many pieces to it usually?
What, 3?
That's 4. It
Four?
has the initializer, which is def. It has the name of the function, in this case getBoundaries. It has parameter target, and then a number called margin, 2 parameters. Okay, it should create 2 variables, low limit target minus margin. Comma high and set it equal to the function call. And so it will return low limit to low and high limit to high. Or position return, the first position gets returned to the first variable, and the second position gets returned to the second variable. So let's print out low, and then let's print out high to see it in action. It's pretty cool. So you learn something new. Look at that. It prints out 80 and it prints out 120. So that's very, 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 very interesting. I did not know you could do that.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So if you returned 4 things, so if we return, so let's say we create a variable called message is equal to hello there, right? And then we also returned a message, right? And then here in this list, we created a variable called message, right? And then we printed out message, and we run it. Hello there gets printed out. So we could just keep adding things to our return statement and keep adding variables here, and whatever gets returned by the function will be stored independently into those variables. Here's what makes this interesting, right? So let's get rid of message and let's get rid of print message. Right? We can print something like low plus high, right? And then divided by 2. Now let's put another parenthesis here. And run this. Oh, what did we do? The name message is not the file. Message is right here. Jeez. Let's get rid of that. Run this. Message. Where's message? Oh, it's right here. Shoot. So I didn't get rid of all my messages inside of my thing. Return. So look. So we printed out the low. We print out the high. They're stored into variables, and we got the average. And we can actually now, we can create a new variable called the average, right? A new formula, a new function, so to speak. And then we can print average. So let's get rid of print low, print high, and let's print average. It should give us 100. That's super interesting, dude. That's super interesting. Okay, so let's back out of all this and let's just do what Codecademy tells us to do, which is just print high and low, right? With the values, print out a string that says low limit. Okay, so we're gonna print a string that says low limit. Can we copy what they do? Can it work this way? Braces high limit bracket high, and then print. Run that? No, it doesn't do that. I was so hoping. This is okay. I thought these braces would allow us to. I think there's something in Python where we can do this. We can just put substitution braces in there, and then we can put like a comma, low, comma, high. Let's see if that works. No, it doesn't work. Oh, okay. So low limit is equal to plus low plus space high limit plus high. Okay, so immediately, Kevin, when you look at this, what do we have to do before we print out the statement?
Before you print out low limit.
Well, what is low right now? What does low represent? What data type is it?
So right now you have two parameters, 100. So it's gonna print out a number.
Right. So we can't add numbers with strings.
Right, with strings. Okay, so you gotta convert it.
That is correct, Mundo. We have to wrap it in this little method guy. Wish this was a function. Jeez. Gotta repeat this so many times. Okay. And make sure I have an extra parentheses. Hit run. Low limit is 80. High limit is 120. Did we? Okay. It has to be lowercase according to Codecademy. Whatever. And it must have a comma as well. So it has to be variables, you'll hear the term local and global variables. Global variables are variables that exist outside the function. So for example, if I put age is equal to 20, expected to see 78 printed. Calculate age. Age is equal to current year, which is this, minus birth year. Did I spell that wrong? Calculate age. Do you see anything written? Anything wrong? I'm gonna define this birth years equal to 1970. And I'm gonna run this. Did I do anything wrong here, Kevin? Do you see me doing anything wrong? Return age.
I don't.
Current year minus birth year. Calculate age. That looks right, so I'm gonna refresh the page. Maybe Codecademy is having a little bit of a hiccup. And let's run it. Nope. So well, maybe we just print. Maybe I can just save this as age equals, and then I can just print age and run it. Yeah, there's 78. I guess that's what we had to do. Yeah, that's right, because it returned age, it didn't print age, so I have to save it to a variable and then print it out. Cool. So this calculation that's happening is taking a global variable now. So if a global variable exists, and this variable has not been defined inside of the function, it will then attempt to use a global variable. So global variables are accessible to everything, but local variables are only accessible to the function. So since age is not defined above this function, it's defined below, but it's not defined above, it only exists for this function. It's a throwaway variable. Okay, so we have a little exercise here. It says define a function called repeat stuff. So def repeat stuff, and it takes two inputs, stuff and num repeats. I can't spell repeats. Cool. We'll make this function print a string with stuff repeated num repeats amount of times. For now, only put an empty print statement inside the function. So we put an empty print statement. Alright, let's run this. And we're going to pause this real quick. Okay. So it says outside of the function call repeat stuff. So obviously we're going to call repeat stuff. That takes, you can use the value row for stuff and 3 for number of repeats. Cool. I have a feeling this is going to be row your boat. So again, I'm going to non-positionally call it because I feel like for right now, that's good practice. So how would I just call a function normally, right?
You just define and the name of the function.
Right, so, well, not define, but so it's already been defined. I would just write the name of the function. Now, if I were to implicitly call this or positionally call this, I would just look at stuff, and I would look at the requirements here, and it says that stuff is row. And I know that stuff is the first position, so I would just put row in here. And right. I know that 3 is number of repeats. I know number of repeats is the second position, and so I would just put num repeats. So the first one is an explicit call or a non-positional call because the parameters are defined inside of the call, so it doesn't matter what position that the parameters are in. The second one is an implicit. It implies that it is positional, so it expects the first input to be stuff. So it says stuff is equal to row in the first position, And num repeats is, of course, in the second position. So, I'm sorry, num repeats should be 3, actually. Right? So, this, okay, is non-positional, meaning the position of the parameters do not matter. In here, because I don't define the name of the parameters, the position matters, because now row is going to be picked up, and it's gonna say, okay, stuff is now equal to row, and num repeats is now going to be equal to 3. Now, if I switch this up and I said 3, comma row, if it's implicit, it will say that stuff is now 3, stuff is now 3, and row is now number of repeats. So this would be the first position, this would be the second position, right? And then when I call the function, this would be the first position, and this would be the second position. So if I were to get rid of 3 and put row back here, and I get rid of row here and I put 3 back here, it changes the position of row. Row went from position 2, okay, to position 1. And because it went to position 1, it now gets plugged into stuff as opposed to num repeats. And 3 now gets plugged into num repeats. So let's get rid of the positions so that way it's less confusing. So, and we can actually, I'm going to switch the positions around here. Let's Control Z, just so that way it's less confusing. And one could argue that an explicit call here is redundant because we know that row is in the first position, so there's no reason to explicitly call stuff is equal to row. But for practice, we should do it right now, because I feel like that's the way to go when coding for other people, is to have your parameters defined up here. But I don't know, we'll see as we go further along. So we'll go ahead, comment those out, and then out. So does that make sense? Is any of that confusing? Did I explain it in a confusing way?
No, you explained it good.
Yeah, so explicit means literal, implicit means it implies that the positions are correct. So outside of the function, call repeat stuff, which we did. Okay, we did this. Oh, repeat stuff. What did I misspell? It says invalid syntax. Repeat stuff. We're just gonna copy that. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this. And then we're gonna paste this, because I don't think I know how to spell. And then we're gonna run this. And then repeat stuff is still having trouble. Invalid syntax, repeat stuff. Let's say stuff is equal to, let's see what happens. Huh. Did I miss a parenthesis somewhere? Or a quote? Or did I misspell something? What did I do wrong here, Kevin?
You have repeat stuff. Oh, okay. Repeat stuff. Stuff equals row. Now repeat equal 3.
Ah!
Stuff.
Come on, man. I missed a parenthesis up here. Ah! So I had an invalid function. Womp womp. Cool. Outside the function, you can use the value row for stuff and 3 for num repeats, which is what we did. Expected row to be passed in the function repeat stuff. Did I do this wrong? Row. Let's get rid of all this. No, let's not. Let's rewrite our explicit. Repeat stuff, and we're gonna pass in stuff is equal to row, right? And then we're gonna pass in num repeats, and inside our num repeats we're gonna pass in the number 3. And we're going to close that up, and then we're going to run it. You can use the value row for stuff and 3 for num repeats. So it's not taking this. Why is it not taking this? Well, let's see if it doesn't want the explicit and it wants the implicit. Repeat stuff. Run. Nope. So we did something wrong. What did we do wrong? Num repeats. Num repeats. What did we do wrong? Outside of the function, call repeat stuff. Repeat stuff we did. You can use the value row for stuff. Stuff is equal to row. And 3 for num repeats. Okay, we're gonna refresh the page. See if maybe we broke. Nope. Expected row. Ah! This is so silly, dude. We missed a space. Look at this. You see that? Space. Literally.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Expected row space. Row space. Oh, what? We did that right. And the number 3 to repeats. Stuff is equal to row space. Does it? Am I missing another space? No. There's one space. I think. Run. Repeat stuff. Let's do implicit. Let's see if it only takes implicit values because it's Codecademy's thing. Yeah, of course. So Codecademy's thing only takes implicit. God, that's so silly. That's so silly. So what we can do is we should test this. So this is a good case for a unit test. And what we should do is we should take what didn't work in Codecademy and we should check PowerShell and see if it did work. Okay, Python. I mislabeled the variable. It's like coding C++. I'm always missing like the semicolons. So the requirements were to create a variable called lyrics, plural. So create a variable called song and assign it to the value of repeat called with a singular input of lyrics. So it says, so let's create a variable called song and assigned it a value of repeat stuff called with just lyrics. Let's see. Missing one positional argument. So let's do that. Let's run that. The value for song did not match the expected value. So lyrics, right? Song. Let's print out song. Let's print this out. Yeah. So here's the error. Missing over. So number repeats should have a default value of 10. Right, because stuff times 3. This is wrong. It's supposed to be repeats, right? And then we run this. Repeat stuff is missing one positional argument number of repeats. So repeat song lyrics. And then this has to have a default value of 10? I don't know. Okay. Okay. So I figured out what happened. Do you understand what just happened?
What'd you just do?
Alright, so check this out. So, it turns out that if you define this variable inside of the function before you give it a value to 10, if you don't give number of repeats any value, it will assign itself to 10. So if we were to write a variable called my age, or I'm sorry, a function called my age, and it takes in a year and a month, and if we do not specify the month number, we want it to default to 1, and then we print out year. Let's print out I was born in plus string, right? Because we have to, it's a year, so we have to string it. Plus, which
you said if
the month.
Have a value.
Yeah. So I'll show you. It has. There's a default value here. Okay, so I created a function. I'm gonna call that function. Okay, so my age is equal to, or let's just say age. Age is equal to my age, the function I just wrote. So ignore everything up here and just look at what I'm writing here. So I'm writing in my age, okay, and I'm gonna put in the year that I was born, 1986, and then I'm not gonna put in anything else. So let me comment out the rest of this shenanigans for now. Okay, let me run this. See what I broke. Oh, because this has to be str. You're supposed to catch me on that, Kevin. I missed that method call. Age, invalid syntax. Age is equal to my age. Print year, month is equal to 1. No, that should be right. That should be correct. Well, let's just call my age 1986. What do you mean syntax error? Let's just run this. I forgot a parenthesis somewhere. Where'd I forget it? Right here. QA! You're failing me. I'm just terrible at typing, man.
Honestly, I'm just listening. I haven't
Gotcha. So my age 1986, right? So this is the year. I'm not going to define a month, right? I refuse to define a month, and then I run, and it prints out I was born in 1986, which is the month number 1. So by adding a default value here, it automatically assigns 1 to month. Now, if I change this here and I add in a number 6, watch what happens up here. So if I don't give a value, it automatically defaults to 1. If I give a value, it ignores this and changes month to 6 right here. So 6. So let me get rid of this value again and run this. Boom, I was born 1986, which is month number 1. So you can define default values in your parameters. So if a parameter is not given to you, you can say, okay, well, continue to use the function, but this parameter has a default value of so and so. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
syntax here. Did I really? Am I?
last 17.
Function here into this Python terminal here, and I'm declaring a function C to F, and I'm taking the F, whatever the F temp is, or I'm defining F temp is equal to the input C temp. Okay, the input C temp times 9 divided by 5 plus 32, right? And then I'm going to return whatever the F temp is out of the function. I'm an idiot. I was still inside the scope of the function. So now I can take C0 underscore in var So what you can do is you can write the test as get force, and then you can enter in train mass as the first variable, and then train acceleration as the second variable, and then of course I'm going to implicitly call it because okay. So this, I'm pretty sure, is the general theory of relativity. with the default values. He saved the result to bomb energy. Okay. Bomb energy is going to be equal to get energy. Okay. It didn't give me values, did it? It said test get energy by using bomb mass with the default value and see. Save the variable. So no param. acceleration and train distance. Yeah, and if we really wanted to be good at this, we would say mass is equal to that. We would say acceleration is equal to that, and of course, distance is equal to that. Yeah, that's such a big variable, right?
Yo.
What's happening? So let's make it implicit, not explicit. Man, dude, they got us doing some crazy stuff here. So they had us call another function inside of a function. So it's called a callback function, right? It has to run this function get force first, and then it multiplies it by the parameter distance, and then it creates the result. So there's a lot of relationships between functions. It's very interesting. And then it says it wants us to print a string. The GE train does plus, obviously string, right? X joules, which X is get work, right? Train work. Right, plus joules of work over plus Y, which is train distance. And remember, train distance has to be it's a method, so it has to be wrapped in a string method because it's a number. It needs to be converted into a string. Plus meters. Oh boy, let's save this. See what I knew something was gonna go wrong. Name acceleration not defined because I can't spell for the life of me. Where? Right here. Look at this. Ugh. Okay, so the name train distance is not, yeah, because I can't spell. Look at this. Dude, I swear I am dyslexic. Woo! Look at that. Dude, that looks so complicated, but if you code it and if you were following along with me, it's not complicated at all. We defined all of our functions here. This one was called a callback function. And a callback function uses another function inside of it. And then down here we created a new variable, right? And that variable was using the get work here. Get work, we put in train mass, train acceleration, train distance into mass, acceleration, and distance. And these two variables then got passed to get force as mass and acceleration. It multiplied them and it returned mass and acceleration to this piece. So mass times acceleration was returned here, and then it multiplied whatever came back times distance, stored it into result, returned result, stored that result into train work, and then printed out this train does train work plus joules of work over train distance plus meters. And we have completed that. My goodness. Let's see if I missed. I didn't click some of these. Up next. Okay, ready for the quiz? Quiz and then we're done. Alright, you want to take this one? Are you around? Did you fall asleep?
No, I'm here.
Not yet? Okay.
Right. Which variable can be called in the blank spot in this code? Can be called in the blank spot. Can be called in the blank spot. How you want to return new counter?
Remember, you're calling the function. So how would you call update?
How would you call?
First of all, count how many parameters does update have?
It has one.
Well, how many parameters are between the parentheses?
Oh, none.
So it has no parameters. So which variables can be called?
Neither.
Neither, because it doesn't take any parameters. So what variables can be called? Now I could be wrong on this. but I don't think I am. If it doesn't have parameters, then it can't call any variables. It just triggers and it just does whatever it does. In this
define,
case,
like,
well, I could be wrong. So let's track through this, right?
Define a counter, the counter plus a number.
Well, in this case, new counter, it returns 1, right? If we do def update, it returns 1, which variable can be called in the blank spot in this code. I don't think any of them can be called. You just type in update. Okay, I'm gonna hit this. I was wrong. I was wrong. It was just counter. So how can counter be called? Okay, let's try this. So let's.
Counter is defined at the top.
Well, it's not being called. Oh, which variables can be called in the blank spot in this code? I guess you're right. So let's. I'm wrong on this. So let's CLS, let's Python. Yeah, you know what? The function's not being called. This is where I was wrong, right? So def update counter equals 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
What it's saying is that you can't call, like, say you call update, right? You can't get new counter because I think it's a name error, right? But you can get counter, which is 0. God damn it. Alright, so yes, I was wrong. So I was thinking about it from a function. You were correct. 1 can be called. The counter can be called.
Sorry, I'm gonna let you slide with that.
Kevin 1, Jeff -1. Alright, next one. Go ahead, you got this one.
Right. What line of code will call force with a value of 10 for mass and a value of 9.81 for acceleration? So define force, 2 parameters, 2 values in the parameter, mass and acceleration. Force val equals mass times acceleration, return force val. So which line of code will call force with the value of 10 for mass and a value? Oh, okay, so with the value of 10 for mass, so that's let me see, I'm thinking trying force val. I'm thinking the top one, the first one.
The first one? Okay. I think there's multiple answers here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's do the top one. That's correct. Now I want to see. So obviously, I got that one wrong. Obviously, got that one right. Because remember how we said explicit and implicit? Mass 10 is explicitly called to 10 as a default. Oh, you know what? No. Okay, never mind. Never mind.
What's up, man?
Alright, I'll do the next one. Given the following function, what would produce the output? There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. So I would call the quote, so it'd be quote would be my call. It'd have to start with quote, and then it passes in X, and then bearing inside of you. So then bearing, so an untold story, the string here would be my answer. Can we get this one? How do you call an update with a new underscore value of 20? So update, new value equals 10, old value equals new value. So how do you call? You first call with the name of the function update, and then this is a default value, so I can just use that. Alright, you get the next one. Do you understand that one, by the way? Do you understand why update 20 is correct?
Well, let me see. New value update, new value equal 10, old value equal new value. No, what happened?
So the new value is defaulted to 10, meaning if I were just to write up this one down here, update, it would print out old value would be equal to 10 and new value would be 10. But when I do update is 20, it replaces the 10. It says, okay, well, if you don't give me anything, new value is equal to 10. If you give me something, new value is equal to what you give me. So by making it update 20, it changed new value to 20. And so old value is 20 and new value. So old value is equal to new value. So new value is 20, old value becomes 20.
Is update a keyword in Python?
It is not.
It's not? Okay.
It's not. I don't believe. I think like with certain APIs, like Flask, which we'll get into later, which has to do with like REST calls and stuff. I think so. But when defining functions, I think you're fine. Okay.
Cool.
So you got this one. I believe in you.
What happens when you call reports? Time equals 3 p.m. Mood equals good. Define report. Print the current time is time, which is a number, or in this case, time equals a string. Print the mood is another string, good. The current time is 3 p.m. The mood is good. Print end of report. What happens when you call report? So, two strings are printed. The current time is 3 p.m. and the mood is good. And the mood is good. Yeah.
So this one?
Yep.
Hey, yep. They try to trip you up with this. But if you remember when we talk about scopes, this is outside the function. So when you call the function, it would never print this. This would never be printed when you call the function. This does not belong to the function at all. So that was a good catch on that one.
Yeah, I don't know why they end of report. That tripped me out right there, bro. I don't know.
They're trying to trick you. Okay, you got this one too.
Cool. What line of code can be used to return a variable inner var from a function back to the piece of code that called the function?
Ooh.
So what line of code can be used to return a variable from a function back to the piece of code that called the function?
Mm-hmm.
Return inner var.
Yep. And the reason is because the wording kind of messes you up because you're like back to the piece of code that called the function. But remember, a function call is just the name of the function, right? With the parameters, and you can save that to a variable, and that's considered the function call. All right, I got the last one. How do you call a function called setup with no arguments? How do you call a function? Yeah, that was the easy one.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Okay, well, I missed one, and that was on me because I did not think like a programmer, and it tripped me up. Yeah. Okay,
all right, man.
So we'll do this sometime this week. This is going to be syntax-based function building problems. So we're going to build a bunch of functions and stuff. So let's see. We're going to be going over average, 10th power, bond, square root. Hey, tip. So all these functions are going to be miniature applications and programs that we're going to build. So there's going to be 11 of them. And we should have all 11 done before Friday. And we'll have the videos out to you guys. That's all I have. Kevin, any last words of encouragement before we end the video?
Check your notes. If you guys are taking notes, if you guys are following up, what have you, either digitally or physical notes, make sure you review. Google is your friend. So if there's a thing that doesn't make any sense, take advantage of the internet. All the answers, 95%, you're gonna find the answer on the internet. That's about it.
Yeah, and we're sort of learning this stuff together, which is awesome. But again, the Discord server, Google Hangouts, email. You can text me. You guys have my phone number. It's on my signature.
Feedback.
Yeah, feedback is required. We want to make these things. We want to polish them. So this is like a rough draft, and the next iteration will be cleaner. And then once we get it to a point where we have a system in place, we can then branch out to other languages. We can branch out to Java, JavaScript, C++, C#, and we can use the same model, so that way if you need to learn something for work, we'll have a set of videos that are polished and ready